Thank you for joining me for another quick hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robin. With me today, I have Jen Pointer, Helen Stimson, and Hannah Austin. The question I want to ask, how did you find or discover your natural gifts and talents, and how do you use them now? Hannah, can you kick us off?
Yeah, well, thanks, Robin. I absolutely love this question. It is right up my alley and my wheelhouse. And I guess I would say personally, how I've discovered it has been a journey, right? So I'm 42. My gifts and talents I thought were different at 18, 21, 30, 40. It's evolved and changed. So I really view it as a journey. Certainly, there's the strength finders that we all take kind of in corporate America, or we're given a personality test. We're an ENTJ or an IFTG, whatever it is. But as we kind of evolve through our lives, it's really about where are you most empowered? How do you feel the best? I like to think back to being 7 years old and knowing that I was a young, creative, young woman, knowing that I like to build and innovate things. And when I look back at that time, it stayed with me through my entire different decades. So I think it's really about when are you most in your flow? How do people recognize you? What do they go to you for? And it's ultimately a feeling within yourself internally of what makes my heart sing and what am I good at and what are my gifts giving back to the world. So it's just really figuring out internally what you gravitate towards. Is it art? Is it more analytical areas? What exactly is it? And I think it evolves and changes throughout your life. But if you look back at kind of that 7 year age, there's always a core of you that remains the same. So I guess I would say it kind of ebbs and flows along the decades of your life. But inside, it's always been kind of that core who you are. And for me, it's always been that kind of creative innovation spirit.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. My last 2 years have been quite the journey, and I've uncovered more goals that I have based on things I'm realizing I enjoy and their talents, and I'm good at them. And they were never goals for me before. But after switching jobs in 2020 and leaving corporate America to come to a smaller company, I was thrust into the situation where with marketing. So Samsung and other companies I've worked for, they did their own marketing. I wasn't out having to network in the same way. And coming to the small company, it's like, how do we get our voice out there? How do we get that word out there? And so I started networking, and I have found that that is a passion, but it's also a talent. And I actually just got back from lunch with somebody, and as he was talking, I'm like, let me introduce you to someone that's in New Jersey, and I'm in Indiana. And he goes, and then as we talked more, I said, oh, and if you don't mind, I want to introduce you to this local person too. And he goes, you just have all those people at the top of your head. And it's like, I enjoy it. And I was always an introvert growing up. So I'm shocked. And I still have moments where getting ready to go into a networking event, I'll get a little bit of social anxiety, but I use coping tools. I get through it and I go in, and I found something that truly makes me happy. And being happy in it, I enjoy doing it, and I'm able to give back in doing it. And so that's how I've really kind of evolved from where I never thought I would be kind of an outgoing person to being able to really give to others through it.
Interesting.
I have to agree with both of you as well. I mean, I would say you start off with personally, when you're working, what exhilarates you, what brings you joy, and start to just be self-reflective and notice what those things are. But, early on, I did things like a lot of personality profiles. Robin, you're a psychologist. I think there is not a test, because I went through leadership training, that I haven't taken. But I'd highly recommend people do those, because sometimes you think you're the only person who is the way you are, and you don't necessarily understand why you are the way you are. And those tests very often will just give you some more insight. But in my experience of working with people for years, coaching and managing people, is that where people are most successful and most happy is when they're exercising what they have passion for and what gives them joy. And there's incredible things that can be accomplished when people are really in that space.
I personally don't love those things because they pigeonhole you so badly. And what I get out of personality test is, Robin, you're very weird. We cannot pigeonhole you. But I do think they do have a foundation in being able to kind of understand yourself better. So that in that way, they are good. One thing that I was told when I was young is, well, what are you good at? Those are your talents. And what I realized is I have some killer skills. which are things I'm good at, but I don't like doing. Coding. I've talked about coding before on Quick Hits. I'm very good at coding. I hate it. And I had to learn the difference between having a talent and something you're good at and having a talent of something that you really enjoy is so different and so much more rewarding.
Well, when I would coach people, I would ask them kind of three questions. The first one is, are you a more process-oriented person or are you a more creative person? And, as you start to narrow down what you want to try next for your career. So if you're process-oriented, finance, quality, manufacturing, project management are all great, typically great fits. Creative side might be sales or marketing or R&D. But then the next question usually is, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? Because what you're probably describing is you are an extrovert who has some process-oriented skills, but you're frustrated by them because you're not able to really get your extroversion out, right? The code doesn't talk back to you. And then looking at what brings you joy. If it doesn't bring you joy, I mean, in anything, we all have to be good across the board on many things. Doesn't mean we like doing all of them. Like I don't like finance. So I had to do it and I can do it, but don't like it.
At what point in your life were you, and this is for each of you, when you realized you get to choose things that bring you joy?
Gosh, this is my moment right now, Robin. You and I have talked about this. I was just nodding my head emphatically with Helen basically saying that, yes, that's, changes throughout your life. So for me, I would say my last 20 years of my corporate career have been what I thought I should do. I should be getting my MBA. I should be moving up the ladder. I was a director, then I was a CEO, COO. I thought I was going the right way based on what societal expectations was saying. You need a house, you need a side hustle, you need all these different things as a successful woman. So it was a lot of shoulds. During COVID, I really realized that I was not being utilized for the talents that I had. I was not tapping into my creativity and innovation. I was building MASH hospitals and morgues at one of the largest health systems in the world. So I really lost that creativity, thus I burned out. Fast forward to today, a year later, I'm doing something that I care about. I have a podcast. I'm passionate about giving back to women and helping professionals find their true gifts, finding their true joy. And I think it's really, like Helen said, it's about what lights you up, what brings you joy. But if you were to ask me 20 years ago when I was 21, managing the largest assisted living in the state of Oregon, I would have said that brought me joy because it was new, it was exciting. It was that stage in my life. But now it's really different. So I think you need to ask yourself that question throughout your life and throughout your career, because it does change and you evolve. And so it does change.
And give yourself permission. I know, Jen, you mentioned you changed from corporate to small and you're much happier now. What gave you permission to make that change? Did you have to burn out too?
No, I actually loved what I did. I didn't know that I was burnt out. I didn't know I needed anything else. I was happy. Due to COVID, myself, along with about a third of our field sales team, were let go in December of 2020. And I was like, what am I going to do? And a family member asked me, they said, you've got 2 master's degrees. What do you want to do? And I said, retire from Samsung. I was happy there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I found this that I also found everything I was missing. And I think even kind of going back to what we were talking about between those skills and your passions, finding interesting ways to combine those, because in mentioning that my master's degrees, the first master's degree I got was in special education. The second one was in management. Growing up, going through school, I thought I want to go towards special education, behavior consultation, something like that. And then I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do. But now in a leadership position, I tell people all the time, I use my special education degree far more than I ever use my management degree.
Oh, how interesting.
But I'm a better manager for it because I know how to adapt to other people and how do they learn? How can I help them succeed by understanding them instead of always trying to make them understand me? And so I had that skill in one area, but now I've been able to combine it with what I love.
Yeah. I think that finding your talents or your natural gifts is really about recognizing what comes easily to you, what comes naturally to you, that you think, oh, everybody can do that. That's not special. I think that's the first place to look when it comes to talents. What do you think that you can do that you think everybody else can do and it's not special? So I want to thank you all for having this conversation with me. It has been so much fun, and I look forward to speaking to each of you again really soon.